What's cracking, everybody? XehrFelrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Battle League content. And in today's video, we're taking a look at one of my favorite Master League teams because I don't have Dialga, I don't have Zacian, so I have to make do with what I've got. And I've got I've got most of the Master League staple roster aside from those two things, and as soon as they come back in Rage, well, you better bet your boy's going to be making some nasty gains in this Master League. But for now, I have to play copium teams. But Zekrom Reshiram makes a really good backline with Ho-Oh. Honestly, if you have the Dialga, sub it out for the Reshiram. I think that would be like the prime way to run this team. But let's take a look at these battles and see how this team performs in the Open Master League. Starting in the first battle, we have Yveltal in the lead against the Ho-Oh that I have here. Now, when it comes to these neutral leads, it's really nice because Ho-Oh can absolutely destroy things, or it's going to get you a shield. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go after my opponent throws after immediately when they get to their Dark Pulse or Oblivion Wing. I know I can tank one. I'm going to throw the Sacred Fire, and the opponent lets it through, gets the attack drop, and they're in range for me to come in and safely farm down. Now, my opponent didn't react quick enough to swap out, so I did get a little bit of extra farm, but they bring in a Groudon here, which can be very dangerous, but I'm glad to see it here because that's kind of the point, right? Even if the Reshiram was a Dialga, you would still be drawing out this Groudon. My opponent, for some reason, just baits. And I think that's because they're down shields and they just really wanted to try and get that shield back. But I'm going to go ahead and no-shield this. If they want to throw the Precipice Blades, that's fine. And they do. But I get to come back in with my Ho-Oh, and since I'm up a shield, their Precipice Blades actually doesn't KO from here. It's very close. It does quite a bit of damage because Ho-Oh only single resists the Precipice Blades. You see, it does a lot of damage. My opponent snipes me right back. But I have a Zekrom in the back, and that means that this Kyogre is about to be very miserable. My opponent saw me throw Crunch on Reshiram, kind of throwing this Fusion Bolt because why not? Opponent does not respect it, and with two shields, Zekrom easily farms down. Now, yes, okay, the Kyogre could have shielded, and that's all fine, but Zekrom still has such a dominating matchup there that it wouldn't have really mattered, especially because the Groudon had no energy. So this is an awkward lead for me in here with the Rayquaza. Wow, goodness, my tongue just like tripped itself. Okay, Breaking Swipe, I'm going to tank one, and then I'm going to throw the Brave Bird immediately, trying not to give my opponent's Rayquaza too much farm. I'm kind of hoping they don't shield this, to be honest. And thankfully they don't, which means my Reshiram can once again come in and snipe the opponent's lead down before they can take out. And because of the extra energy, I have Crunches, and these are actually going to do a lot of super effective damage if my opponent lets it go. So Crunch is not going to get damage. Unfortunately, it's going to get the shield here, but that's fine. It's a Mewtwo. It's actually not super bulky, so they kind of have to shield it, but I'm going to tank the Psy Strike. My opponent then comes in with a Giratina Origin to farm down what's left of my Reshiram, and I got to be careful here. I have shield advantage, which is huge, but the Giratina definitely, I don't want to take a Shadow Ball, so my opponent baits me. So I'm just going to keep farming here. What I figure at this point, what I can do is I can look to continue farming. Now my opponent, in hindsight, I don't think they built up to the Shadow Ball. If you're in this position and you're only going to get one move off, at least go up to the Shadow Ball. If I had actually been paying better attention, I looked at this game afterwards, and they hadn't even built up to the Shadow Ball. So just make sure you're actually building up to the move if you're going to try to threaten the shield. Like, I've come to doubt my own counting so badly, but you just don't want to take that chance. So I swap in my Ho-Oh real quick to get the Incinerate through. If my opponent KOs me, then they just get taken out by Dragon Breath. So that's going to be a good game. Well played to this trainer. Into the next game here, we're going to have Ho-Oh on the lead versus a Garchomp. If this has Mud Shot, it's not bad, but it has Dragon Tail, which means I have to be very careful. And because of the Dragon typing on Garchomp, it is going to resist these Incinerates. So I'm going to go for the Brave Bird one after the one Incinerate after I get it, which is good timing. My opponent immediately throws. I expect it to be Sand Tomb, but I have to respect it. It could be an Outrage. There are some people that do run this with Outrage. So I'm going to immediately swap into my Reshiram, and I know that was way too quick to be anything other than a Sand Tomb, so I'll let it go. And the opponent's still staying in here. Now, they could get to another Sand Tomb, but I'm going to go ahead and throw my Crunch here since they have thrown another Dragon Tail. And I'm going to hope that this lands and gets rid of this Garchomp, because I would really like to get rid of the Garchomp right now. I'm going to be completely honest. This thing is an absolute nightmare to deal with. As you can see, it's still not gone. But the opponent was not at a Sand Tomb yet, and they get taken out by Zekrom. And then the opponent has a Hydreigon in the back, dude. This is some spice. And I go for the Fusion Bolt. Both moves here are resisted, but this is same type attack bonus, so I'd like to get more damage off with the Fusion Bolt. We hit a little bit of lag here, and then all of a sudden my opponent's throwing a move, and I've taken a lot of fast move damage. I have no idea what the heck is going on here, but weird, just, oh my goodness. Either way, then the opponent's going to have a Metagross in the back, and thankfully, that is going to be a good game. Ho-Oh's just going to come in, throw the Sacred Fire, and we're going to one-shot this Metagross right now. Absolutely decimated. Good game, though. Love the Hydreigon Spice. Hydreigon's one of my favorite Pokemon. I'd love to run it. I can't wait for Master Premier to come back. I have a chance to try and run it. My opponent having a Groudon in the lead, excellent lead for me, but they come in with a Shadow Lugia, and I make a mistake here by swapping it immediately. For some reason, I'm like, oh man, Zekrom can do work here. No, Zekrom is going to get a shield and then get farmed down. So what I absolutely should have done here, and I'm going for the Crunch because I realized that Fusion Bolt's going to get shielded. I'm probably going to get a shield either way, but I wanted the defense drop, right? So Ho-Oh should have stayed in, maybe thrown a Brave Bird, and then dipped to Zekrom. So if you're going to try this team and you hit a Ho-Oh, you hit the Ho-Oh and they save swap into a Lugia, just do some chip before you come in with the Zekrom so that you can actually win the matchup. So what I'm doing here is I'm going for the Sacred Fire. I have a really hard time to deal with that Groudon in the back. This is going to be really tough. I didn't want to debuff myself because they could just start going for Precipice Blades. So I'm going to no shield this, or actually no, I'm going to shield this one up because I'm close enough that a Precipice Blades would almost KO me. And then I'm going to go for the Sacred Fire. Since my opponent threw before the CMP, I can now choose a different charge move. So thankfully they decide not to shield that. I'm going to keep farming, and I'm going to try to farm down this Groudon, and I think I choose to shield. No, I do just, goodness, I can't speak. I decide not to shield this. My opponent's got a Reshiram, I have the Reshiram. My opponent's got a Xerneas in the back, and they're going to throw Moonblast here. The nice thing about Reshiram is that it has extremely solid coverage, and even against like fairies, it's very neutral. Like, even though they're double resisting your Dragon Breaths, those Fusion Flares hurt a lot. And against something like Zacian, if they have to self-debuff or if they're running Play Rough, either way, like, you're only taking neutral damage, you're not taking super effective damage. So, I mean, Reshiram has a lot of merit here over like something like Dialga, but Dialga definitely has the better neutral play. It is the king of the Master League for a reason, but I'm not able to get to 2 charge moves in time to take out the opponent's Xerneas, so I take the L on that one. Good game. And we get a really awkward lead here with Heatran in the lead in the next game. I could have swapped out. I probably should have. I was kind of hoping that I could land a Sacred Fire, but my opponent does get to the Stone Edge and what I believe is 5 or 6 Fire Spins here. So I'm actually looking to stay in just for a bit. I want to actually try and get rid of this thing. In hindsight, like I said, I could probably have swapped out immediately. I'm pretty sure that that would have been the correct play, but I'm hoping to get 2 shields and then swap out. The Stone Edge is what I'm worried about against Reshiram here, because that would do super effective damage, and it would probably hurt a lot. So my opponent swaps in a Solgaleo after getting some energy on their Heatran. So once again, have to be cognizant of the fact that they may have a Stone Edge or close to it. So I land the Crunch here because my opponent put 2 shields into their Heatran, seeing that it had some value that I was staying in, and I get a defense drop from the Psychic Fangs. My opponent looking to just continue to go for Psychic Fangs here, since the Iron Head, Flamethrower, and Solar Beam are all resisted. Probably not worth throwing. They just want to get some debuffs here so they can get some more farm on their Heatran, I imagine. So I'm going to throw this next Crunch here. It would KO regardless, and if they, I don't know. I would rather throw the Crunch. There's no real difference here. But they come in with a Rayquaza, and now I'm like, okay, this is really tough. Okay, ABA Steel, but the Heatran is a little bit more neutral into a lot of things. If the opponent doesn't have Ancient Power on the Rayquaza, which is kind of what I'm just making a gamble on here, I'm okay. And they don't. I think that they're running the Dragon Ascent, so my opponent now comes in with the Heatran, and I have to respect the Stone Edge KOing here. And they full send it, so I respect that. But they have energy for another move. They overfarm by a ton. But this is definitely just a Magma Storm here. And my Ho-Oh survives the Magma Storm. I'm going to go and dip into my Reshiram and bank the move on Ho-Oh now that I know that they have no more energy. And so if this is a Stone Edge, it's going to hurt a lot. But it is. And yeah, that's why I was so worried about it. But the nice thing here is that opponent's Rayquaza is not going to get the farm it needs now to land a Breaking Swipe against my Ho-Oh when it comes back in. So I'm just going to get some damage off here with the Crunch, and then I'm going to toss the Brave Bird into the Rayquaza since it's not at the move yet. And that's going to be a KO, and that's going to take it out. Good game, and we'll hit the button. Just because it's Ho-Oh. Well played to my opponent. That was a heated game in the moment, I'm not going to lie. Really nice lead here against a Florges. Opponent immediately swaps into Mewtwo, and I am suddenly in shambles. I'm trying to get maybe a shield here. My opponent over farms. Goes a little bit past the 7 here that you would normally throw, I believe. And then I'm going to come in with my Zekrom, and I'm basically what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get switch. Now, the thing is when you're facing off against a Mewtwo, you absolutely have to be careful of the counts, right? You have to try and bet your best to keep track, because those side strikes come out quick. It's like Swampert. It seems like Mewtwo always has more than they should. And I am pretty sure that I did not count 15 here. That's why I overfarmed. And this now puts me in a very bad position, because I am forced to get switch advantage here. And if I don't, then I'm kind of screwed. So I don't know. I think the Mewtwo may have maybe snuck one in that I didn't notice. But this Florges is now primed for a gigantic farm down. There's, maybe what I should have done here is I should have pivoted into my Reshiram or something. I was kind of hoping that my Ho-Oh would be able to wall this energy well enough, but then my opponent comes in with a Rayquaza and up a shield. There's absolutely nothing my team can do against this Rayquaza. So maybe what I could have done here instead was maybe launch another Brave Bird into the Rayquaza, get the shield, throw the crunch maybe, I'm not sure. But at this point, my opponent, they just go for breaking swipe, and there's really not much I can do because I can't farm down here. I have to throw energy, which just basically means that the opponent's Florges can just do it at once. I've already gotten attack drop, so Sacred Fire is not going to one-shot it by any means. And it's got enough energy for that Moonblast, so unfortunately, I am going to take I guess it would have one-shot because they have they're low HP, but the Moonblast is going to take me out here, even though it's resisted, and that's a good game. Well played to my opponent, capitalizing on me making absolute fool of myself. I think that their backline was just too neutral, and I wasn't really sure what to do. Again, I don't play a whole lot of Master League, as any of you know, so some of these matchups I haven't ingrained into my head yet. But this one I've got a pretty good handle on. We hit a Dialga lead the next game, and they have not thrown prior to the 20 turns of Incinerate. So what I do here is I want to call an Iron Head, but I have to shield. I have to respect the Draco. And my opponent goes ahead and throws the Iron Head bait at me. Anyway, I'm going to throw this Brave Bird at the Landorus that just came in, and it lands for huge damage. Landorus is going to get farmed down by my Zekrom now. And they're going to throw the superpower because they won't get to the Stone Edge. That hurts, but I'm going to tank it. And then I'm going to try and use the energy that I've got on my Zekrom here now that the opponent has thrown pretty closely after. But the Zacian is what comes in, and this is actually kind of dangerous depending on what moveset they have. They probably have Play Rough, though, if they're coming in on a Zekrom, but a close combat would certainly hurt all the same. I'm farming up energy. I'm just, waiting for them to throw their move here. They go for the close combat, which means they are definitely running Wild Charge, so this is really, really awkward. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in with my Reshiram, hoping to tank a move, and then I immediately come in with my Ho-Oh here. And if I can get to this Brave Bird, I'll be good. But my opponent goes for the move. Will the Iron Head KO? That's the question. Iron Head takes out my poor Ho-Oh. And then we're going to hopefully be able to farm down. My opponent, I believe, has 2 charge moves loaded. I think this was an Iron Head, so I'm going to call it. And it was the Iron Head. It was resisted, saving his shield. Need to get to 2 charge moves here. The opponent did throw energy, and so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to hope that I'm going to be able to get to a second move before they are. Since my opponent did throw the energy here, they were not able to get to 2 charge moves in time, and Reshiram is going to Fusion Flare the Zacian, and that is going to take it out. Good game to my opponent. Getting into the next game, we're going to have Ho-Oh on the lead versus another Groudon. Another great lead here. We want to keep this away from the Reshiram and the Zekrom. But my opponent comes in with a Dragonite, and I'm confusing myself. But my opponent throws the Dragon Claw before I get to the Brave Bird. If you are the Dragonite in this position, it's usually better to try and wait and see if they debuff themselves, or just save your energy. My opponent had saved their energy here. I would be in a very tight spot. But because my opponent has taken some damage and they shielded, I could safely win switch here if I want to by just Dragon Breathing down. But I think that what I'm going to have to do here is throw a charge move right before, but my opponent stops tapping for some reason. Maybe, I'm not sure. I think that after I was counting the Dragon Breaths, they went down on 11, so I think that it wouldn't have mattered. They were not going to get another move off anyway, but this makes it a lot easier for me to get my Reshiram up with energy in this Groudon's face, and we're going to throw Fusion Flare after Fusion Flare, and we're going to see if the opponent wants to shield again. So if they decide to shield this, that's going to be shields down. Ho-Oh's looking good, but the opponent saves a shield, comes in with a Purified Apex Lugia. It's gorgeous. Look at that thing, dude. It's so gorgeous. So I'm going to come in with my Ho-Oh, and I'm going to try to get the final shield off my opponent. They are not going to be able to get to an Aeroblast, and the Sky Attack won't KO. So what I'm going to do here is, since this is the last Pokemon left alive, I'm going to go for the Sacred Fire, hoping for an attack drop. And they can't swap out to clear that, as if you're not familiar with the whole debuff clearing concept. Essentially, when an opposing, or when any Pokemon switches out, its debuffs and its buffs are all cleared and reset back to 0. So since the opponent can't swap out, they're going to take a Fusion Bolt to the face, and Zekram's going to farm down. That's a good game. And then we got Ho-Oh against a Melmetal in the next match. This is it's again one of those really weird ones. I feel like maybe I should have just swapped into my Reshiram, but I'm also very well aware, thankfully, that Rock Slide will not one-shot my Ho-Oh here by any means. So I can tank one, go for an additional... I could go for an additional, but I think they would have gotten to a move there. So I'm going to go straight for the Brave Bird, hope to get a shield and save some energy, because my opponent would certainly have to shield a Sacred Fire. So I opt to go for the guaranteed shield here, because it just makes sense. They're going to throw Superpower. The Rock Slide would have made more sense here because it's super effective into the Reshiram's Fire typing, but my opponent's going to swap in a Gyarados, which is an interesting swap, and I don't see too many of these in open, but if my opponent can make it work, then more power to him, to be completely honest. I love Gyarados. It's just not, it's not something that I would expect to see out here in Open Master League. But anyway, I'm going to come in with my Zekrom, because I'm going to be able to Dragon Breath down before my opponent can get to another move, and then I'm going to have an energy lead against whatever comes in. It's going to be that Melmetal. Opponent's going to throw a charge move here, and I'm looking to no shield. It's probably a Rock Slide, so I'm going to just take that one on the chin. Continue to build up, go for the Crunch here, hoping for a debuff or a shield. Crunch would be close enough to being lethal here, I imagine. My opponent does let it go, and I immediately come in with my Ho-Oh, trying to snipe down, but my opponent swaps out immediately as well into their Groudon, and this is a very dangerous game. But I have 2 shields. My opponent shields once, and they did not get the attack, or I didn't get the attack drop. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shield up once. It's probably just going for Fire Punches, to be honest, but I have to get this energy off. My opponent goes for another move immediately, and that is a no-no. If you're playing against something like Ho-Oh, you wanna just go for the Mud Shot. So if my opponent threw 2 Mud Shots there, even 1 Mud Shot, and thrown that Fire Punch, that would have taken me out. But because my opponent neglected the timing, they're going to have to get taken out, and that's going to be a good game. So thankfully, able to take advantage of that. But again, timing is crucial. It's a skill that is definitely worth investing some time into, and that is something that I cover quite well in my Metafy coaching, and also for my patrons. So if you're interested in either one, interested in learning more about timing, I'd love to help. It's just one of those things that it's just very crucial to have in battle. So opponent gets the attack drop off the Sacred Fire. I'm going to swap in my Reshiram into this Mewtwo here after getting the first shield. I tanked the Side Strike on my Ho-Oh because I know I could. And then my opponent's going to come in with an Excadrill. And the thing is, with Excadrill, with 2 shields versus 1 shield, this Fusion Flare is going to force the shielder one shot. Opponent now goes down to 0 shields, and I'm just fine letting this go. Ho-Oh is absolutely destructive now. If the best thing that this person has is an Excadrill into my Reshiram, man, we're going to have some fun. My opponent, once again, with poor timing, letting almost an entire Incinerate through. And this is what I'm talking about. Like, when it comes to timing, you absolutely cannot be just letting things through. Now, my opponent goes for the charge move here. I expect him to go for the Rock Slide, so I'm going to swap, and I catch the Rock Slide on my Zekrom. Opponent having a Mewtwo, and they have a Garchomp in the back, so now I'm going to have to try and get to a charge move before they can Dragon Tail me down. Going for the Crunch here. This could be a very close game. I have a shield, but it's not really going to matter with the Dragon Tails. Opponent swapping in a Mewtwo, getting a farm down, and I have 2 charge moves just about on my Ho-Oh, so going for the first Brave Bird immediately, not messing around, and then I'm going to go for the next one here, but the Incinerate will KO That's going to be a good game, getting off to a nice 8-2 run with this team here in the Master League. And given how little experience I've got with Master League and the fact that I don't have Dialga or Zacian, pretty proud of myself, not going to lie. So thank you all so much for watching. We're going to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.